You have one of those giant soft boxes, but you need to shoot in a small space. How do you make that work? In this video, I'm going to show you how. I'm Rafael and welcome to the channel where our goal is to always fix it in camera and then finesse it in post. And I always appreciate the early thumbs up because large, soft key lights are great for capturing beautiful images. The goal with any shot in any space is to lock in the best camera angle first, typically the widest shot that you want to get, and then light it to make it look great. And to adjust the shot only as a last resort if it's not working. But those situations are really rare. In small rooms, this can be tricky because some lighting equipment is really big and can be hard to keep out of sight of the camera. Case in point, these softboxes and light modifiers are essential gaffer gear and are great for shaping light and creating large light sources or softer light and bigger reflections or catch lights in the eyes, which makes for beautiful, pleasant images. And when working in large open spaces or in studios, there are no issues. Set up the shot for the best angle and place the lights right where they need to be. Though I have found myself in many situations where I need to film in very small, tight spaces and still want to have depth in the shot and use large, soft light sources. For example, interviews in small offices or bedrooms no bigger than you see here. Many people don't actually know that these types of light modifiers, the softboxes, umbrella lights, or other, are relatively new in the video space. They were borrowed from the strobe photography space when continuous LED lights were introduced. They are fantastic. They are light, can compact pretty small to be easily portable, and really work well to shape light. Prior to this, the heat from non-LED video lights would set these types of modifiers up in flames in a hot minute. And for many people, these are the first lights and modifiers that they have owned. And they're using them just how they've seen others use them without really knowing the fundamentals of how the light is being shaped and why it's being used the way it is. Sometimes the biggest light and the fanciest modifier is not the best solution for your setup. Sometimes you have to think outside the light to achieve the best result. I've been on many sets where the cinematographer has ordered all these fancy lights but only ends up using a handful that works in the situation. Typically, these types of modifiers require lots of space to set up, and in small spaces we potentially have to make sacrifices in the shot, either depth or the lens choice. So how do you achieve the look and feel of these large modifiers in a small space? For example, if I was to set up that modifier in this room, I could go with a wider angle to compensate, but not all people or shots work with wide angles. So I've locked in the shot with a 24mm, and I want to get the background to be a little bit out of focus to show off the set. So I need as much distance from the camera to the background. If I was to set up the modifier as is, it would force me to move the camera forward or change the focal length of the lens, ultimately changing the feeling of the shot. So those options are out. But before we adjust the modifier, let's see what the modifier is actually doing to understand better what we need to recreate. The light is being funneled through the dome to the diffusion material. This is where it's spread evenly and disperses in all directions, reducing the direct light rays coming from the light source. Without the diffusion, we get very hard light, hard shadows, and this is not very pleasant. So just taking off the softbox and pointing it at the subject is not an option either. But it does reduce the space needed. The key is to make the light much softer. Remember, the softer the light is, the more pleasant it's going to be. So the next step to recreating that soft look and feel is to remove the modifier and point the light at the wall, especially if it's white, or add a white bounced material. And at this point, it can be anything as long as it's white, like a bed sheet, a shower curtain, or one of those big fold-out reflectors. Or if you want to get fancy like me, use a white sound blanket to serve two functions: to bounce the light and as a sound dampener for the room. And if you see my auto pull video, you'll know how much I love them. The sound blanket has grommets and I used bongo ties to mount it to the auto pull, which is spread across the room. A shower curtain has these exact same grommets, so you can mount it the same way. Or with the bed sheet or shower curtain, you can use gaff tape to tape it up to the wall temporarily. This essentially puts the light source at the wall. Think of it like mounting the light behind the wall, expanding your space, allowing you to use more of the room for your shot. Some large softboxes also use two diffusers, one smaller one closer to the source and one large one at the end of the softbox. This is actually easy to recreate with a small piece of diffusion that you can mount right to the light. Or in my case, I use the Aperture Light Dome Mini 2 to soften light before it hits the bounce. And this type of double diffusion really softens the light and makes it even more pleasant as a light wrap. And if you feel that there is too much light spill in the room, you can always shape the light by adding some black foam core to cut the light from bouncing up onto the ceiling or around into the room. This is the shape and funnel the light where you need it to go. I know it's not pretty off camera, but we're working with small spaces here. As long as it looks great on camera, then we're golden. This also opens up to be able to do Roger Deakins cove lighting that is used on some pretty huge movies, where you can get some pretty soft, big light sources with a single light. I love utilizing this when I can. The beauty of this setup is you can achieve this with pretty much any light that you have, aperture, nan light, or any other. This is a technique that I've used over and over in many small spaces, and it makes even small lights feel large. I've done this so many times for interviews where I've cross-shot the light to the bounce to make the light source much larger, softening the light and creating a nice catch light in the eyes. And after this point, you can add a hair light or fill light and craft the look that you want. But in small spaces, you actually have many options to use big lights. If you want more lighting or camera related videos, make sure you check out this playlist. As always, thanks for watching. Give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe. I'm Rafael. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.